What's up, guys? Welcome to Track and Bass 1979 FOM, which stands for Fishermen of Men. Here today, going to do a service on my 2020 Bass Tracker Classic XL. It has the 50 horsepower Mercury on it, the 4-stroke. And start off with you guys on a few things that are essential, I think, to doing this. First, recommend a grease gun to grease all your lube, grease and lube all your points, especially with grease fittings. Recommend an old rag, guys, not your wife's panties, towels, or good t-shirts, because you know that won't go well. Recommend a pair of gloves. Got a little pry bar to pry the center caps off the axles so we can get to the Baron Buddy grease fitting. And also recommend a set of ears so you can run the water through your motor. Also, I have the oil change kit. It is 8M0081916. It's actually Mercury's 4-stroke oil and oil filter. Also comes with a nice funnel to catch your oil from your oil filter, and also a new gasket washer. I don't know if you guys can see that or not. There's a new gasket washer for your drain plug. If you have one, there's your catch funnel. So with that being said, let's get started. So first things first, me personally, when I change the oil in anything, my vehicles, my motorcycle or dirt bike, my boat, mowers, anything, I like my oil hot. A lot of people don't like that because they're, going to worry about burning their fingers and hands. But to me, you got cold oil, you got oil that's just laying in there in the bottom of your oil pan that's not draining out. You crank that motor up, you're circulating all that oil, so you're getting all the oil in all the other places that may have trash just laying there when the vehicle's been sitting for a while, or motor or boat, or etc. So first thing first, make sure you have your earmuffs on, your water earmuffs. If you don't have it on there and you run the boat out of the water without running water through the impeller pump and pumping out water out of the motor, you're going to burn that motor up fast. And a boat motor will burn up fast. I promise you that. I've already went through that. My sons and I did. We got left stranded out on Tomalex. So let's fire it up. Now to me, the motor on this boat right here, if you can hear it, sounds like a Volkswagen. One thing you want to look for is to make sure you have water coming out of your pee hole. And we don't have any right now. So that's telling me that I need to adjust these water earmuffs. Let me put the camera down for a second and I'll be right back. Sorry about that. It's hard to adjust the water earmuffs on there, but sometimes you may have to adjust them to make sure you're getting adequate water. You can see the pee hole now, got a good stream. That's also a good sign too. It's telling me that my impeller pump is still in very good shape. I think most boat manufacturers and technicians will tell you they recommend replacing your impeller every year. To me, keep an eye on it. I mean, if you're not going to use the boat a whole lot, I think you'll be fine for a couple of seasons. We got this boat new last year. This is actually going to be the first oil change on it for the break-in oil. We didn't run it enough last year in the season to fulfill all the hours of engine operation for the first oil change for the break-in oil. But obviously we got good pressure here with a weep hole, so we'll let this motor run for a few minutes, get nice and hot, and I'll be right back and we'll proceed on. All right, guys, so I ran the motor, I actually ran it until I started feeling the water coming out of the pee hole to be kind of warm to the touch. That's let me know that the motor's got a pretty good temp and the oil's got pretty hot in there and circulated. So let's move on to taking the boat cover off. Like I said, this oil change procedure and this boat cover remover and my grease fittings and stuff may not be the same that it is on your boat. So I do highly recommend look up videos, owner's manuals if you don't have it. If you do have owner's manual, read through it and figure out exactly which oil change kit you need. I recommend using manufacturer specific oil. Even if you go like with AMSOIL or something, make sure that it's synthetic if it needs to be a synthetic. Make sure it's a synthetic blend if it needs to be a synthetic blend, and it may not even be that, or it may be a two-stroke. I don't know. So let's get this cover off. On this motor here, it's got a real quick release here. Lift it up and the whole hood of the motor will just fold right off. I know this is a newer boat. Not saying that in a bragging way, I'm just saying I know it's a newer boat. So things are going to be a whole lot easier on this boat compared to a lot of other ones. Alright, so with the hood off, let's go ahead and locate our oil filter and also where we need to drain this oil at. So here's our oil filter right here. Here's your dipstick to check your oil level. One thing I do recommend one thing I do and I also recommend to others is when you change an oil, if you can, pull your dipstick up. Doesn't have to be all the way out, not unless you choose to. Pull it up, because that actually helps out when you start draining the oil. It pulls the suction that could be on the oil away from it, and it lets the oil drain out a whole lot quicker. Definitely helps out too with your oil filter drainage too, and you're also getting more dirty oil out of the system. So highly recommend that. Like I said, this is a 4-stroke, 4-cylinder motor, fuel injected. This is your fuel injectors. I've been really impressed with this so far. As far as checking the air filter, I'm not going to do right now because it has not been ran enough yet. It does have a timing belt up here. I got to look and see what the manufacturer recommendation is for that. But here's all my information on my motor. So if you don't have a owner's manual, you can actually get a lot of information from this right here. 2020 boat, 50 horsepower, pretty much a 0.996 liter engine. You know, pretty good stuff here. Gap on your spark plug, 40 thousandths or 1 millimeter for metric side, or 40 thousandths for your English side, or whatever you want to call it. But average is 16.5 gallons. So I mean, it's oh, I'm sorry, I don't know why I just said it. It is not 16.5 gallons. Please take that back. I'm sorry. It's talking about the EPA. Your hydrocarbons and your NOx, which is nitrogen oxide, is 16.5 grams is how much it puts out into the atmosphere, which is pretty low, because some of your cars put out anywhere from 30 to 40 grams as far as that go. And here's your engine family number. So this number right here will give you all the information that you need to find oil filters, spark plugs, recommendations, everything. So that makes a big difference. So I'm going to put the camera back down again. I'll be right back and we'll start draining oil. Okay guys, back with you. The drain plug for this is pretty simple. It's right here on the side of the motor. It does have like a little shape of a funnel that comes out the side to kind of keep the motor oil off the fins. I recommend having a rag handy. That way, for some reason, the oil runs on these fins. You can keep from getting on your ground and polluting the area you're in. So we're going to break this loose. Got a drain pan down below, and sit there and screw it out. Counterclockwise loosens, clockwise tightens on this boat. You know, lefty loosey, righty tighty. And I'm going to be honest with you, some of your other boats could possibly have reverse threads. So that's another thing you can look up when checking your manufacturer. So you can see this oil right here. Sorry folks, my apologies, my battery died. I hope I had enough life in it from this past weekend of fishing, but I didn't. Okay, so what I was in the middle of saying is this oil's not too bad for braking oil, so it actually looks still pretty clean, but you know, they recommend a braking oil right around 150, 200 hours on this motor in the service manual. It may have that or a little bit more possibly. Don't tell Mercury that, but recommend you change your oil every I believe it's 200 hours, 250 hours, I think, somewhere around in there. An average person is probably not going to take their boat out and run it that much. Guys, any of the techs out there, if I'm wrong on that, correct me, okay? I have no hard feelings to any kind of correction. Automotive technician. Anyhow, oil drain plugs out. This right here is your seal. Take a flathead screwdriver, pop that off of there. Take a rag and wipe around your area there where the seal sits, kind of get any kind of garbage or trash that might be in there. You know, I had a little bit of oil run down the fins, but my old drain pan I have is pretty big, so didn't have any issues there. So let me open up the new oil kit and get the new seal out for the drain plug. And this kit from Mercury is actually a really good kit. What I like about it is it comes with your oil. This is Mercury's oil, so it's going to cover any kind of warranty issues I may have down the road. You know, and I'll keep up with this. It comes with a Mercury oil filter. The number of this oil filter is 35-8M0162829. And also comes with a brand new drain plug seal, which I think is very important. A, you won't lose oil out your boat if something's wrong with the seal that come off of it. May have you know, scratched the nylon surface and can cause a oil leak, which you don't want. And so I recommend putting a new seal on. Two, you're not going to pollute the waters with your marine life. You know, we all want to keep our lakes clean and keep the fish happy, and so we can have some good fishing. Okay, so here's a new seal. Matches up identical to the old one. Double check that, make sure, you know, it fits tight around your oil drain plug. These are a copper drain plug, so you ain't got to worry about rust in the water. And if you want to, you can look up the manufacturer specification for the torque spec on your drain plug. Me, I'm going to turn the drain plug in as far as I can by a finger. You can even use your socket. This one's a 19 millimeter. So that being said, let's tighten her down till she stops by hand. So that tells me that we got a surface between the gasket, the drain plug, and the gasket and the drain on the bottom of the boat engine. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to twist it, and it's tight. So like I said, I'm not going to use the torque specification. You can if you want to. Don't over tighten it, because this is a copper plug. You will strip the threads out. You definitely don't want to hurt the threads inside your motor. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to snug it. And with that being said, she's nice and snug. I'm going to wipe out all the excess oil and get the camera moved and set up, and we will move on to the oil filter, and I will show you a pretty cool thing that comes with this kit from Mercury. Okay folks, and we're back. So here's your oil filter. We looked at that earlier. This is a cool oil filter funnel that Mercury supplies with their kit, and it actually slides in here slides under a little lip, and now when we take this oil filter loose, the oil's draining into this catch funnel instead of running down into the valley of your motor, which A, can make you think, oh man, I got an oil leak, and B, if any of that runs out into the water, again, we're polluting the waters. So I'm going to use a pair of channel locks here to loosen up the oil filter. Shouldn't be too tight, I wouldn't imagine, but you never know. So, but you can see there, turning the oil filter out. And now, with the oil filter loose, you should be able to turn it with your fingers, make sure your funnel stays in place, and go ahead and loosen up the oil filter. And this right here again is counterclockwise, lefty loosey, righty tighty, so clockwise to tighten it up. And you can see I have oil in here. I'm going to dump this oil into my oil catch pan and sit the filter in there so that the filter will actually catch a lot of that. Now I did lose a little bit, tiny little bit of oil in here, not a whole lot to worry about. I'll probably take the water hose and rinse it out, because there is drain holes in here a little bit, but it's not too bad. Like I said, at least that catches a lot of that oil. So I'm going to take just a dab of oil off where it's come down a little bit, and the little tiny catch drain has got here inside the motor, and I'm going to rub a little bit around my oil seal. This is so to make sure the seal does not have like a hard spot, so when you go to tighten it up, it can actually press the seal out, which could cause a leak, and helps it turn easier so when you go to seat it on the block. Now something else very important a lot of people forget about, and this goes for any kind of oil change in the oil filter. Make sure that the rubber seal on the oil filter that you're taking off, the old oil filter, is not stuck to the engine block, because if it does, you will double seal the oil filter when you tighten it back up, and it will leak. I promise you, it will leak. I've actually had to take a oil seal and tie, put a rope through it and tie around people's necks. I've seen do that in shops I've worked at to remind them. So now we got the seal lubed. Kind of easily start the oil filter till it catches the threads, and then you can spin it up. What I normally do is I'll turn it till it gets a little tight. You don't want to put your channel locks back on there, because you'll crush the oil filter, you'll over tighten the oil filter, and we don't need to do that. So spin it up till it gets tight against the engine block, and then you just want to turn it about a quarter turn. I'm using a rag so I can get better grip on here, so I'm turning that oil filter about a quarter of a turn. That's all you need to do. You don't need to He-Man it on, you don't need to Armstrong it like a lot of people think you do, because you're also taking a chance again of pushing your seal out, and it's going to make it a whole lot harder to come off the next time. So with that said, let me go get my oil funnel and we'll pour the oil in. Okay guys, got the oil funnel in. Highly recommend you try to pour that in that little hole, you're going to make a mess. Don't pour the oil in too fast, because it may burp air out and come back at you, because now we don't have the dipstick anymore to let air vent. Also, the 40, 50, and 60 horsepower Mercury's of this model kit all hold 3 quarts. You know, we're going to demonstrate checking the oil level once we're done, but you may have to get an extra quart. I'll be honest with you, I've seen some motors say it recommends this, and it may take a little more, it may take a little less, but we're going to pour all 3 quarts in this one right here. And just take your time pouring it in. So like I said, there's no way to vent the air out, and it can have burp a bubble out and push oil back on you and run back down in the valve of your motor. So let me get this oil poured in here, and we'll come back on cranking her up and checking oil level. Okay folks, got the oil in, Got the dipstick back in, double check to make sure there's no oil running out of drain plug around the seal. It's a good time to catch it. You might have a leak or so. Also got the ear muffs back on and water pumping through the system. So I'm gonna go crank it up. And one thing I think is very important, I did not point out to you guys earlier before I started, was I got my motor sitting back here on the transom as level as possible. That way you got pretty good adequate oil drainage coming out. And also when you check your oil level, it should be right on the dime of where it needs to be at. So I'm gonna turn the camera over here to the motor and we'll fire her up. Okay guys, so you don't have to let it run long to try to get the oil hot. Let it run for maybe a minute or less. Really don't have to, but you want to make sure that you're getting the oil to circulate back to the motor, back to the oil filter, and down, so that you can make sure you got a proper measurement. Now I know a lot of people say you need to wait till the oil drains down before you check the oil level. I don't agree with that. I'm an ASC Master Certified Automotive Technician, and you need to check your oil level now, because when you let all the oil drain, of course the level is going to be right there or higher. You want the level to be where it's supposed to be at while it's running, to make sure you got adequate oil for adequate oil pressure for adequate lubrication. So we're going to pull the dipstick out, clean it off. You got a couple marks here. That's the add mark, that first. You got a max mark there. You don't want to go above that. We're going to put our dipstick back in, and we are about a 1/4 inch away from the max mark, which is good. As long as you're in between your add and max, you're good to go. So this is also a good time to come back in and look and make sure there's no leak around the oil filter after running it, because now you're pumping oil through there and pressure, and you can double check your drain plug as well. So let me move a few things around and we'll get into lubrication. Now I always recommend go ahead and lubing everything on vehicles, trailers, anything you have. If you're doing a service on it, if it, sorry, cleaning grease off, if it has a moving part and it has a way to put grease in there, you need to do it. This motor is pretty simple. We have one grease fitting here on the steering shaft, right here. So we're going to go ahead and pump that and fill it up. Just pump it till you feel it get tight. You don't have to pump it till you got grease running everywhere all over the ground. And this right here is probably not going to take a whole lot. And then you turn the camera up here. Sorry for the camera angles and stuff, guys. I have a grease fitting here for your turn radius, and I'm going to sit this grease gun down. I'm going to call this the kingpin, because this is where your motor turns side to side. Call it a kingpin because you got bushings in there of the shaft, and that's one thing you don't want to go out. One, it could cause a hard steering problem, so you don't want that. And two, I'm pretty sure it's going to be expensive, because most of the time with bushings like that and kingpins, you have to actually have it sent out to a machine shop and have everything done with that. Next thing I recommend is look at your shifter linkages inside of your motor. Like I said, apologize for the camera angles and moving around, but a lot of the older boats is probably going to have a lot more lubrication points, but this one right here for the shifter, it's got a nylon roller, and there is grease there. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my grease gun, the end of it, and just put a little tiny bit around that roller on both sides if I can. And when that roller goes to move backwards and forth as you're shifting the forward and reverse, it's going to pick up that new grease that you put in there and lubricate the slide there in there. That's going to help out too with giving you a smooth shifting. A lot of people don't realize that, but a lot of your shifting problems could be just from a simple lubrication. But that's all their grease fittings it is on the back side of this one. But something else I want to recommend too, and this is kind of a memorization thing, is while I'm doing the oil change and service on the motor, I'm going to go ahead and grease my bearing buddies. For you guys who don't know what that is, bearing buddies is a buddy, what they call it a buddy, because it pops where most of your old trailers have got a grease cap cover. This has a greasable cover on there. They call it a bearing buddy. And right here's the grease fitting. And what I'm going to do is put the grease gun right on there and pump it full of grease again until I feel it get tight. Now, one thing you need to know about bearing buddies, if your boat, trailer, or any kind of trailer does not have them on there, I recommend when you go to purchase some, to go ahead and pull your wheel off. Well, hang on, let me plug it back in so the battery won't die. Sorry about that again, folks. But go ahead and pull your wheel off. Go ahead and replace the inside grease seal, bearing seal, and hand pack your bearings, or you can buy a grease compressor as well. Reason why I say that is because with bearing buddies, once you have them on a trailer or you install them yourself and you got adequate grease on both bearings, you make sure that every 1,000 to 2,000 miles you're packing those bad boys with grease again. The tighter you keep that grease buddy packed, the more accurate it's going to be on getting grease to the outside bearing, the inside bearing. For some reason, you just buy a set, throw them on your trailer, and you think, okay, now I'm good to go. I put grease in it. A lot of times, it's not going to put grease to the inside bearing because it's not staying packed. You want that grease to push against the other grease inside to push to your back bearing. One thing I'm going to say is a lot of common things you see on the side of the road is trailers with the axle gone or the wheel off of it, especially boat trailers. Because remember, guys, when we're backing these things into the water, we're getting water access to our bearings. Even though they're sealed, water's still going to find a way in there. There's no way man can make something 100% sealable. So this is Brian. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm going to take some WD-40 and lube a couple of little small things around the boat, but be safe on the water. May God bless you. If you don't know who God is, I'll be more than happy to talk with you. If not me, find somebody to talk to, because Jesus Christ is our Lord and Savior. Hope you guys have a blessed week, and hope to see you guys on the water real soon.